How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we get a story of a spoiled kid who burns down a restaurant because he is big mad. Yeah, it is a very interesting story. I'll know you'll enjoy it, so sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's call the subscriber who submitted this story Alex. By the way, this story is also on Spotify. It's the first link in the description. Please rate it 5 stars if you do listen to the podcast on there. It's these stories, but you also get the stories like a couple hours early if you follow on Spotify. Anyways, so Alex was going on a date, right? And Alex had not had a date for a while. She just didn't really have the best luck when it came to this stuff. But all of a sudden, she was just like on Tinder or Match or one of those dating apps, and she got she matched with this guy who we're gonna call Steve. And Alex right away was pretty excited because, Steve wasn't a bad-looking guy. He seemed like, I don't know, he had good photos with friends, a photo with his mom. He kind of seemed like a nice, wholesome, and somewhat attractive guy. So Alex was pretty excited for all this. Alex and Steve talked a little bit in the Tinder DM section, and, she was all like, oh, like, do you want to, or he said, do you want to go out tonight? And she didn't have anything to do, and she hadn't been on a date in a while. So Alex, very excitedly and enthusiastically said, yeah, I would like to go on a date. That sounds great. And, Alex is like, hey, or Steve is like, hey, you should come to the blah, blah, blah restaurant on, like, 5th Avenue or something like that. And it was, like, a really fancy restaurant. And, Alex was like, oh, wow, I guess this guy's kind of a baller, too. Like, all right, like, W for Alex. Love to see it. So Alex, getting ready, and she's excited, and she's still chatting with Steve a little bit, just, like, flirting it up a little bit. And this guy actually has some pretty good game. He's, he seems like a nice guy, not like r/nice guys, fedora wearer nice guy, but, like, an actual nice, like, a nice dude who, like, she's excited to go on a date with, who's pretty good looking and probably making that bread by the restaurant suggestion, And, Alex is like, okay, like, this is pretty great. And she gets all ready, she's excited, and she shows up to the restaurant, and she shows up, like, 10 minutes early, because they have, like, a reservation. She's like, I just want to be there first so that, like, I can see him coming, and I don't get caught off guard or anything. Like, I just want to be there prepared. So Alex gets there, like, 10 minutes early, goes up to the front desk, and is like, hey, like, a reservation for Steve, I think? Or Steve for 2, and she looks down, she said, yeah, okay, come right this way, the table's ready. So the waiter leads Alex over to the table. It's, it's a table with a view of, like, really, like, the city that they're in, wherever that may be, not going to disclose anything. And it's really beautiful, and she's like, wow, this is awesome. So she sits down, and it's a restaurant with a lot of other people, but it's a pretty fancy restaurant. Alex got dressed up in, like, a nice dress and all that good stuff. And sure enough, she's sitting around, waiting. She looks at her phone, and it's 6 o'clock. It's the time that he's supposed to be there, that they were supposed to meet. And Alex is, like, looking at it, and 6:01. She's like, okay, whatever. No big deal. Like, that's totally fine. Like, okay, that's chill. We're cool. We're cool. And it's 6:05. She's like, good to be fashionably late, I guess. 6:10. And she's like, oh no, like, I definitely just got stood up. And Alex is, like, so upset about it, so disappointed. And that's when this guy comes, like, strutting in at 6:12 and sits down. Is like, hey, Alex, right? It's Steve. What's good? And Steve was all, like, disheveled looking. He was, like, he was all dressed up in a fancy suit, but it was, like, thrown on last minute. His hair was all around the place. Like, his shirt was unbuttoned a little bit too much. It was all ruffled up. He kind of smelled a little musty from even far away. He had, like, 12 o'clock shadow. Like, it was just, like, she was like, oh, in her head. She's like, looks a little different in his photos, doesn't he? You should always FaceTime someone on, like, if you match with someone on Tinder, try and get them on a FaceTime call before you meet them in person, just to make sure you're getting the real deal. Little pro tip from me. So anyways, Steve's like, oh, yeah, no, you'll love this place. Like, it's so good. Like, my dad brings me here all the time. I go here with the boys. It's awesome. And Alex is like, haha, he also sounds different over text. The way I imagined him to be was a little bit more Prince Charming-y. I guess that's on me. And, Steve's like, yeah, so, yeah, I'll probably just get, like, the filet. Like, you can get whatever I want. It's on my dad's card, so it really doesn't matter. Get what you want. And Alex is like, so he's not a baller. He just has infinite resources at his disposal because he won the genetic lottery. Okay, good to know. This is not turning out exactly how I thought it would. And so anyways, like, Steve is like, yeah, all this looks bad. So many vegetables. Alex, being a vegetarian, is like, yeah, isn't that the worst? So right away, this is already a disaster of a date, because she thought that she was going on, a date with Prince Charming, but instead she's going on a date with basically spoiled kid grown up. I've told a lot of stories of spoiled kids when they're like in elementary school or grade school. This is the spoiled kid, but like when he's 22, bro. Like, this is the spoiled kid if he grows up. So think of this as, like, the prequels to my spoiled kid story times. Let me know if you like these kind of older ones, too, and I'll make sure to do some of them. But anyways, right, so Alex is like, okay, just survive the date. He's paying for it. Get a nice meal. Maybe dig down deep, and you'll find this guy's actually cool. But worst comes to worst, you get a good meal, and then you leave. However, that was not worst comes to worst, because the worst comes to worst was the title of this video, which you'll see in just a second. So the waiter comes over, and the spoiled kid is like, yeah, I want this. And she's like, okay, like, that's totally fine. Alex says, like, oh, I want that. And Steve's like, dude, that's the lamest thing on the menu, because Alex got some, like, she's a vegetarian. She got, like, the vegetable option. And Alex kind of just looks at Steve. He's like, oh, my fault. Don't sweat it. Like, don't take it personally. I'm always joshing around, bro. Like, don't even worry about it. Alex is like, yeah, no, I'll have the vegetable bake. That sounds good. And Steve's like, vegetables. And Alex is like, okay, just gonna go through this. It's fine. Life is okay. And so the waiter goes away, and Steve's like, so, you want to hear about my vacation? Alex is like, in her head, she's like, okay, so this is normally when we just ask each other a little bit more about each other, right? We just talk a little bit more. We get to know each other. It's a back and forth, but sure, I want to hear about your vacation. So spoiled kid, or AKA Steve, is like, yeah, so I was vacationing with my parents. With my dad. We took a little mega super yacht over to Mykonos. It was pretty fire, and we went clubbing every single night. And dude, Alex, you're not gonna believe it. I got with so many beautiful women. And Alex is like, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. So right, she's sitting there, and her date is saying, yo, I got with all these beautiful women. I just want to make sure that you are aware of that. Like, bro, I don't think that's the thing you say to your date. But okay, anyways, and he's like, yeah. Then I went back home. I went to the club again. Like, my dad, he just gives me his the Centurion card from American Express. So, that thing's like metal. And he takes it out, and he kind of like dinks it against his glass. He goes, bing, bing, bing. He's like, yeah, dude, like, this thing is crazy. You just go to a club and you drop it down, and they'll give you anything. Like, I got the craziest bottles of champagne ever. And, like, I was spraying them over these girls, and and Alex is like, okay, just zone out, because this is not going as I expected. And he's like, so, and Steve then goes, so Alex, tell me about yourself. Like, what's up? And she's like, because he'd been speaking about his, like, super crazy mega yacht vacation for, like, the last 10 minutes. And Alex is like, oh, yeah, so, I work at a coffee shop. I'm a vegetarian. I love cats. And you could just see that Steve is completely glazed out. He's not paying attention to a thing. And that's when Steve takes out his phone and doesn't, like, discreetly check it. Because, look, if you're discreetly on your phone taking a little look while someone's talking to you, yeah, you should be pretty good friends with them, and you should make it brief because, good to have eye contact. Human conversation, human connection is important in these things. But this guy was just like, had the phone on the table, was scrolling through like Instagram, right? And the thing was, in the middle of Alex speaking, literally, bro, he goes on TikTok and is listening to TikToks, bro. He just is like, it's like renegade, while she's trying to talk. And one of the times the TikTok comes up, she's explaining to him, like, oh, this is what I do for work. And he goes, like, he's like the worst freaking laugh ever. This kid has, like, he might have been blessed with a ton of money, but he was cursed with a terrible laugh. And a really loud one, too. And Alex just kind of stops talking because, bro, this kid is on TikTok. He sounds something funny and he bursts out laughing when she's explaining, yeah, ever since my mother died, he's like, it's just the worst timing ever. She's like, you know what? No, I'm not going to continue this conversation. I'm speaking to a brick wall right now. So she kind of stops talking. Steve's like, wait, why'd you stop? And Alex is like, oh, I was just catching my breath. So she continues to go on. She's like, and so the other thing. And she's like, oh my God. This is the worst date I have ever been on. And that's when it gets somehow gets worse. Like, you have to realize this date sounds terrible so far, but it only continues to get worse. Because Steve is like, hey, can I tell you a secret? She's like, yeah. Steve's like, yo, turn around, but be discreet. And so Alex turns around, and she sees, this girl and this guy sitting at another table. She's like, okay. And Alex is like, yo, that's my ex. We broke off, 12 hours ago. Alex is like, you broke up with your ex 12 hours ago? And she's sitting right there? And Steve's like, yeah, I was doing some snooping, and I figured out that she was coming here tonight with a new date, and I just had to book it with a date. And Alex at this point is like, wait a minute. I'm just being set up. I'm just being used at this point to try and make this other girl jealous. So Alex just looks at him. It's like, Steve. He's like, yeah, what's good? What's up? He's like, did you just bring me here to make another girl jealous? Steve's like, no. I want to go on a date with you. It just happened that my ex-girlfriend from 12 hours ago, who I was stalking and figured out that she would be here at this exact time in this exact restaurant, and I just happened to be here with my new girlfriend, and she's like, girlfriend? No, it's a coincidence, Alex. I just want to go on a date with you. Can you just get over the fact that, my ex is here? Wow, you're so jealous. And Alex is like, I don't care. It just seems a little weird that, you planned this out. He's like, no, it's a total coincidence, even though he literally just admitted to it not being a coincidence. But anyways, Alex is like, okay, this food is taking forever. I wish this was fast food so I could eat my meal and go. And as she was saying that, the waiter comes over with both the meals, and Alex got, the meat lover's dead animal surprise or whatever, and she got the vegetable loaf. So she was kind of just looking at him like, But sure enough, right, she was eating it, and Alex was like, so, do you want to try some? And he, pushes over his big meat lover surprise. And she's like, I'm a vegetarian. Which she said, 7 times. She said it while she was ordering. She explained, what in her life brought her to that point. Because, she had to explain, stuff about her life. And he's like, oh, well, you're still a vegetarian if you eat a little bit of meat. And Alex is like, no, that's not how it works. At least not for me. And he's like, come on, just have a little bite. And Alex takes a fork, sticks it into a piece of steak, starts pushing it in her face. She's like, please get that away from me. Please, please. And he's like, what? Are you a snowflake? Is this meat making you triggered? She's like, oh my God, this guy's literally the worst. And then Alex is like, okay, I'm bored with you. Or not, yeah, Alex, Steve. And Steve's like, hey, Kate. And Kate's the ex-girlfriend at the other table. And Kate whips her head around. She's like, what is it, Steve? And then at this point, right, Steve and Kate, Steve's ex-girlfriend, are just bickering back and forth. And he's like, oh, look who's on a new date now, Kate. Does this make you jealous? And Kate's like, I don't know if you remembered, but I broke up with you, and I'm on a date. You happen to stalk me, figure out exactly when I'm coming, and just pick up some random girl on Tinder to be your quote-unquote date. And, at this point, Steve is like, no, that's totally not how it went. You're just, making stuff up right now. It's so embarrassing for you. It's so embarrassing. I'm embarrassed on your behalf. At this point, Steve is, tears are welling up in his eyes. It's when your younger brother loses the fight. So he's like, no, you're wrong. And cries and goes to his room. Mom, he's hitting me. I don't have a younger brother, but I've just seen that happen so often. And sure enough, right, Alex is just sitting there and is like, okay, this is not how I was envisioning my night. Because remember, she saw this guy on Tinder with wonderful photos, and he was eloquent in his, his responses. He was, he was so good. And then from those little bits, she kind of imagined a totally different guy. I mean, by totally different, I kind of just mean that one is who isn't terrible, right? But Alex thinks that the date right now is going bad. She's not a fan of how it's going. However, little does she know, it's about to get a lot worse. Real quick, comment spoiled down below if you made it this far into the video. The secret word of the day is spoiled. I'll try and heart a bunch of comments to say spoiled down below. And also, if you want to support the channel, all you got to do is make sure to continue watching videos after this one, or at some point within the day, just sit down and watch a bunch of videos. Please let me know in the comment section down below what you're doing while watching these videos, and or how many videos you watched today. I am genuinely curious. Also, I made a Twitter account, and something very cool can happen, but we need to get to 1,000 followers. So my Twitter is Pugs. It's in the description. It has like 200 followers right now. I would love to get it to 1,000. Also, if you enjoy watching these or listening to these on the go, please check out the Spotify, as on Spotify, you'll actually get access to these story times 1 to 2 hours before they go up on a lot of occasions. Not always, but if you want kind of like a sneak peek of the stories, go to Spotify, follow, turn on notifications, and rate 5 stars if you can. And finally, if you want to submit stories, and very soon, like right now, go to my Instagram, Pugs, and DM me, or go to my Twitter. I'm going to be opening up my DMs pretty soon, and you can DM me stories on there as well. Anyways, let's just get back to it. Use code Pugs for 10% off gamer subs, link in the description. Helps you out, helps me out. Let's just get back to the crazy date, because this is really bad. So Alex is sitting there, and at this point, Steve and his ex, Kate, are just like bickering back and forth. And Alex kind of looks at the guy that, Kate is on like a date with as well. And they kind of look at each other and kind of shrug and be like, what's going, hey man, you and I are both in this together, bro. Like, this is crazy. And so sure enough, right, what probably happened was that Kate was angry about the breakup and spiteful, and just found a random dude on Tinder and decided to go out, and also made it very clear to Steve that she was going out with a random dude to a restaurant. She probably put it on her story just met a great guy on Tinder. We're going to the Rich Minion the Rich Minion restaurant at 6 tonight. It's gonna be so great. I don't think there's a restaurant called Rich Minion. If there was, I would be there immediately. I also saw Minions 2 in the movie theater. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I'm not even joking. I unironically love that stuff. Anyways, though, so, at this point, Steve is starting to get really, really angry. He's like, I don't like you at all, Kate. And she's like, good. That's why I'm going on a date with another person. And they're basically shouting back and forth. And, the manager comes over and he's like, hello, everybody. My name is Markable. I'm just kidding. He's like, hello, everybody. What's going on over here? Can we please, I'm glad that everyone around here is such good friends and is having a great conversation with each other, but can we please quiet it down a little bit? Just a little bit, please? Just a little bit? And the manager walks away. At this point, Steve and Kate turn back to their people. Or Steve turns back to Alex, Kate turns back to her Tinder date, and they're sitting there, and Alex is just looking at Steve, and she's like, so, that was something. And Steve's like, yeah, my ex is the worst. She keeps following me around and is trying to make me jealous. And Kate's like, well, can you be jealous? You guys broke up. Are you still into her? He's like, maybe. And Kate's like, okay, I don't think we should be on a date anymore. He's like, wait, you're not no. You're not allowed to break up with me too. You can't break up with me as well. And Alex is like, what are you saying? What? No. Well, what do you mean break up with you? He's like, nobody wants to stay with me. They all leave. And Alex is like, calm down, okay? I'm not going to go anywhere. And immediately Steve, goes back to, good, perfect. The tears literally went back up into the tear ducts. It was crazy. Okay, not actually, but you know what I mean. And sure enough, right, Alex is like, okay, he's obviously manipulating me, but you know what? I'm going to get dessert here. It's on his dad's dime, so I'm getting dessert here. Like, I don't care. Like, that's totally fine. So they get the dessert menu, and, they order something, and, Steve is sitting there, and Steve is just, like, completely disinterested in Alex. Like, literally just paying no attention to her. And Alex finds that kind of annoying. Steve is just looking over at Kate, talking with her new boyfriend, and Kate turns around, sees that Steve is looking at her, and she, puts her hand on her new Tinder date's boyfriend hand. Tinder date's boyfriend. Her new boyfriend, the Tinder date's hand. There we go. And Steve literally takes his fist and pounds it on the table. And when he does this, the glass of red wine that Alex ordered falls over and spills on her. And she's like, oh my God. Steve looks over and is like, my fault. And then turns back to looking at Kate. Bro, and Alex is like, anything? Do you want to say anything else? Do you want to offer to help or something? And Steve's like, what? You just spilled wine all over yourself. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, no, it was on the table. You pounded your fist because you're mad that Kate is with another guy, and it spilled all over me, right? And so Kate grabs a napkin, and, Steve is like, I'm not mad. No, you got that wrong. I don't care that Kate's with another guy. I mean, we broke up. It was mutual. Oh, no. She's broke. I'm up. Oh, roast. And Kate's like, dude, or Alex is like, dude, that wasn't like a roast. You didn't. He's like, shh. Silence. He's like, no, I don't care that Kate's with another guy. I don't care at all. I'm a big boy. It's what my dad said. Love you, Daddy. But no. I'm good. I'm fine. I don't care. Okay, I care a little bit, but not, enough that anyone would... And Alex is like, all right, you know what? You know what, Steve? I think I'm done here. Thank you for taking me out. We had a nice conversation, but this has gone way too far. He's like, no. I want you to stay. I want it. I want you to stay. No going, no. That's not what I want. And Alex is like, are you okay? Are you having a mental breakdown right now? Why are you shouting, no, I want it. I want you to say, you must, I need it. He's like, no. You can't go anywhere. Alex is like, I'm sorry. I have my own autonomy. Sorry, bro. That's so tough. I don't know what to say. I don't understand. I'm going. Alex stands up. Still has all these red wine stains in her. She's like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go. Goodbye. And he's like, no, I don't think you are. And he literally starts slamming his fist on the table. And Kate turns around and starts laughing. And she's like, can't hold down a date, Steve. Can't hold down a date. Just so you know, the greatest thing was me after all. That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying, Steve. Get wrecked, bro. Okay, I don't know if she said get wrecked, bro, but you understand the gist of what I'm trying to say, right? And Steve is so angry. He's like, you know what? And he grabs, the candle. So they have, in some restaurants, they have the fake candles. You know what I'm talking about, the fake, lighted candles. But some of them, some of the fancy ones, too, have, real candles. And he takes the real candle, he's like, I don't care anymore. And he just chucks the candle, right? And just, starts... He, kicks over, the plate on his table, and he chucks the candle, and he's, screaming. However, he didn't realize when he chucked the candle, what he actually did was he chucked the candle onto the drapes, the thin but very flammable drapes, and immediately they catch. But no one notices at first. They just see a little smoke, because, it doesn't explode into flames. It's not dipped in gasoline or something, right? But sure enough, right, eventually... Alex is watching the whole thing with Steve and Kate go down, and that's when Kate's Tinder date's like, hey, everybody, turn around, look. And all three of them turn around and they look at the curtains, which have all completely caught on fire, and the fire is now quickly spreading. So at this point, right, they all turn around, they're like, oh my God. So they all get up, they all walk away from it. And that's when, Alex is like, we got to go find someone. So Alex runs, finds the manager. He's, standing around the front desk. He's like, there's a fire going on. So immediately, 911 was called. The whole restaurant was evacuated. And, Alex and Steve walk out. And Alex is like, I think I should just go home, right? And Steve's like, wait, so you're not coming back to my place? And she's like, no, of course I'm not coming back to your place. She's like, okay, well, you have my number. If you change your mind tonight, like, you're like, oh my God, that Steve guy was so great. I'm so sad that I was an idiot and decided not to go back to his place right away. I guess I'm going to be crawling back to him on my knees. Okay, Alex is like, you know what, Steve, that won't be happening, but thanks for looking out for me, bud. If that happens, thanks for looking out for me. I really appreciate it. He's like, oh, no problem, dude. Like, I got you. And so Alex very angrily walks away. And, the next day comes around, Alex is checking the local news, and sure enough, is like there was an article about like the fire damage or whatever, but apparently they said that they had no idea what caused the fire. Police were investigating it, but the restaurant sustained some pretty bad internal damage, but it would be fixed up in like a month or something, which is detrimental for anyone in the restaurant business, by the way. I don't know if they went out of business or not, but anyways, Alex met up with one of her friends the next day. They went out for coffee, they sit down, and Alex is like to her friend, because her friend's like, anything new? And she's like, so you might think that you have a bad date story, but I truly have the worst date story.
Click on the
you've
video
ever
on
heard.
screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.